How nervous can a man be with a beautiful woman on a blind date? This man's hands were shaking when he was pouring water. He couldn't even look at the woman when he handed over the glass. Whatever Livvy asks him, he says yes. Can you imagine that this is the first time they met? And then they got married. And Livvy has a baby in her belly. Livvy got pregnant before she was married, and her boyfriend disappeared shortly after she got pregnant. Dad felt ashamed of her and contacted a priest in the village to find her a husband. That was Ray. Ray didn't hesitate to marry Livvy, even though he knew she was having a baby. Ray's sister was also very warm to Livvy. She brought Livvy a plate of food when they were going home and said it was her wedding gift to them. Ray's home was on a vast farmland. The nearest sister to his house is also 8 miles away. His house is small, but it looks sophisticated. There were dogs barking from the inside of the house. Ray was afraid the dog would scare Livvy, so he shut it up. He opened the door and said gently,
"Welcome home."
The house was clean and tidy and looked very comfortable. Ray let Livvy sleep in the biggest room, which is also where his parents used to sleep. He showed Livvy around the room and showed her how to turn on the hot and cold water in the bathroom. Livvy watched Ray quietly. She didn't expect her father to find such a gentle husband for her. The two of them talked about their old lives over dinner. Livvy was a graduate student in archaeology. Her thesis was on the Troy excavations by Heinrich Schliemann. Ray didn't know much about any of this stuff. He just silently put the plates away. When Livvy asked him why he married her, Ray's answer was simple. He thought maybe it would be God's will. Could it really be God's will? Livvy grabbed the locket around her neck late at night. Inside the locket was a picture of her ex-boyfriend. Livvy stroked the picture and cried out. She fell asleep in tears. The next day, she woke up in the sun. She said she wanted to go to town to make a phone call. Ray offered to drive her there because the truck was not easy to drive. Livvy called her sister when she got to town. Ray went to the library to check out a book. Neither he nor Livvy could cook very well, so he borrowed a cookbook, and he checked out a book on pregnancy preparation because Livvy was pregnant. Finally, he asked the librarian if he had any books on archaeology. He wanted to learn more about archaeology before he went to talk to Livvy. Livvy was complaining to her sister. Their home is very far from downtown. She says Ray doesn't know anything about archaeology, and she doesn't know anything about agriculture. The two of them had nothing in common. Ray is very gentle with her, but it wasn't the life she wanted. Ray teaches Livvy how to drive the truck on the way home. The truck wasn't easy to drive, and there was something wrong with the gas tank indicator. She had to tap it to see the real gas level, but the joy of driving was a relief to Livvy. A few days later, when Ray took Livvy to church, someone asked how they met. Ray volunteers to lie to help Livvy get out of trouble. He also offered to take Livvy away from the church to the lake to go fishing. His kindness was appreciated by Livvy. This woman was lying on her bed by the boat in stockings and a floral dress. Some dragonflies flew over and circled her. The man turns his head away at the sight. His ears are a little red, but his face is a little smiling. Livvy said she liked to swim, so Ray called in the excavator the next day. The two of them were eating when the worker came. Livvy accidentally put too much chili in the food. Ray choked on a bite of food, but he had to lie to Livvy and tell her it was good. As soon as Livvy turned around, he drank water like crazy. After he ate, he went to drive the excavator. He's trying to dig a pool in the garden. That doesn't happen often. His sister also brought the kids to see the digging site. Livvy was a little embarrassed because Ray was making all this mess for her, but her sister said Ray was doing it to please Livvy. Livvy was stunned by this comment because she remembered that she went for a maternity checkup a few days ago. Her baby is 4 months old and will probably be a Christmas baby. Livvy was a bit sad. She was pregnant before she was married and her boyfriend had dumped her. Once her baby is born, both she and Ray will be subjected to strange looks from others. But Ray doesn't care. He said no one would say anything because they wanted them to be happy. That's what Ray said, and that's what he did. At Ray's sister's birthday party, Livvy sat her around because she couldn't dance, and Ray wouldn't leave Livvy to dance alone, even though he was counting the beats involuntarily. When Livvy found his fluttering hands, she took it upon herself to pull him onto the dance floor. Ray would gently lead her to dance again. Sometimes Livvy gets bored and goes for a walk on the farm. She meets a couple of sisters there. The sisters were watching butterflies and drawing them. Livvy was interested, looking through the book and inviting them for drinks. On her next break, the sisters approached Livvy to talk. Livvy was happy because both sisters had been students before the war. The three of them could talk about things other than crops. While Livvy happily talks to Ray about these things, Ray's reaction was a little cold, and Livvy was a little disappointed. But then something happened that she didn't expect. At the family gathering, while Ray's brother-in-law and Ray were talking about farming, Ray brought up a different topic.
I've been thinking about Troy.
Everyone was confused. Livvy reacted by explaining to everyone what Troy was. The family started talking about it with great enthusiasm, and Livvy smiled and brought the conversation back to farming. Ray looked at her and smiled. Livvy looks at Ray the whole way home. The two of them say goodnight to each other when they get home. The moonlight was so beautiful that Ray couldn't help but move closer to Livvy. But Livvy dodges him in that moment. She still wasn't ready. She hadn't forgotten about her ex-boyfriend either. In fact, she's been writing letters to her ex-boyfriend for the past few days. She just never got a response from him to any of the letters she sent. A few days later, Livvy's sister came to the farm. She hated the place and didn't like Ray. She wanted Livvy to go to her place to give birth. Livvy wanted to spend some time with her sister. In the room, Ray hears the sisters teasing and stays awake all night. The next day, Livvy sent her sister away. She heard Ray humming a song and was a little surprised. Ray told her that it was a song his father had hummed to him when her baby was born. He would hum it for her baby too. Livvy was stunned to hear it. Her connection to this place seemed to be getting deeper and deeper. She's become very close to the sisters on the farm. When they go to study butterflies, they take Livvy with them. When they saw that Livvy was pregnant, they offered to make her maternity clothes. In addition, Livvy accidentally finds a bomb shelter in her house and picks up a lot of novelties. This man was burning something when a woman came out of the car and yelled at him. The man was confused. Livvy left in a huff. He rushed to get water to put out the fire and then found a burnt black sack. It was the one Livvy brought back from the bomb shelter. Livvy looked at him in shock, but he said he would do anything to make Livvy happy. Not only that, but the next day, he left Livvy a message asking her to go to the basement to find a surprise. The basement was full of Ray's family's old things. They carry a lot of time and a lot of history. Livvy, being the archaeologist is, happily unearthed many of the old items and used them as decorations in her home. It's fall, and the sisters have finished sewing Livvy's maternity dress. Livvy in her blue and white dress is serene and gentle. Ray had installed a telephone in the house for easy contact. When my sister's voice came on the other end of the line, Livvy was so happy she jumped up and down. When it snows in the winter, Livvy takes the dog and hides in the house. Now she's a pretty good cook. She saw Ray coming and took the food out of the oven. Then she carefully lights the candles on the table, and it's all so cozy and nice. Ray came in from outside, cold. He was very angry when he saw the dog enter the house, because in his family, it was impossible to let animals in the house. But it wasn't this that really made him angry and helpless. He took out a letter and handed it to Livvy. It was from her ex-boyfriend. Ray guessed he didn't know Livvy was married. Did he? In the end, Ray went to work on the farm without eating dinner. The next morning, Livvy got up early to make breakfast for Ray. She apologized for her reckless behavior the night before, but Ray didn't want an apology for letting the dog in the house. What he wanted was Livvy's love. Livvy said she had done something wrong. Ray instead asks what her mistake was. Livvy's indecision broke Ray's heart. He turns around and walks out the door. In fact, her ex-boyfriend's letter didn't contain any words to keep her. He even thought he wasn't the real father of Livvy's child and told Livvy to find another man. Livvy's mistake was that she was in love with him and believed in him. At night, Livvy dreamed of the past and finally broke down. She had been lonely. She had sacrificed a lot, but she had been abandoned by her ex-boyfriend. Ray really cared for her and was very gentle with her, and Livvy thanked him for his dedication. Livvy lived here for 6 months and received selfless love and understanding, but in the end, she decided to leave because she didn't know if she was good enough for Ray. The day she left, Ray was sitting in the living room and the dog was lying next to him. Ray changed his mind for Livvy by letting the dog in the house. He said he couldn't let Livvy leave without knowing how he felt.
I've fallen in love with you. For me, you're the best thing that's ever happened.
He awkwardly sold himself to Livvy. He says he can cook, and he'll accompany Livvy on an archaeological dig. Finally, he takes out a ring and asks Livvy to forgive him. Livvy looks at him for a long time and doesn't say anything. Finally, she put on his ring. On the day Livvy went into labor, Ray rushed back from the farm and saw her standing outside the door waiting.
What in the world are you doing?
Getting ready for a baby.
This movie, The Magic of Ordinary Days, was released in 2005. It has no dramatic plot. It doesn't have any complicated filming techniques, but it brought tears to my eyes just because it speaks the truth of love. Everything that's exciting in life will eventually return to the ordinary. Ray's companionship and Ray's tenderness made Livvy's ordinary years full of charm. This quiet flow of love is perhaps the most precious thing in life.